Hello. Is this Ms. Warren? The voice on the other end of the line was crisp, professional, and utterly devoid of warmth. I shifted the phone to my other ear, gesturing for my finance team to pause, the spreadsheet on the monitor blurring. "This is Elena Warren," I replied, my pen hovering over a quarterly report. "This is Harrison, the senior coordinator for the wedding of Mr. Person's donator, Leo Warren and Ms. Seraphina Vance." His tone was that of a man delivering a weather report. "All sterile fact. I am calling on behalf of the family to inform you that your invitation has been, unfortunately, rescinded." I felt a cold, sharp object pierce my sternum. I'm sorry. What? "The invitation has been rescinded," he repeated, with the slightest hint of impatience. "Logistics and seating have been finalized, and your attendance is no longer required." The air in my conference room felt thick, unbreathable. My brother. "Does Leo know you're making this call? We are acting on the direct instruction of the bride and her mother. They have assured us Mr. Warren is in full agreement." He cleared his throat. "They do. However, wish to keep the $75,000 deposit you provided as a gift for the venue and catering, as per the contract's non-refundable clause." "Thank you." The line clicked dead. I sat there, the receiver still pressed against my ear, listening to the dial tone. The silence of my own billion-dollar company's conference room was deafening. My team stared at me, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. I could feel the blood draining from my face, a glacial cold flooding my veins. Rescinded. Keep the $75. Ling ling ling. My deposit. My brother. My only brother. To understand the profound, systemic shock of that moment, the feeling of the earth cleaving open beneath my feet, you have to understand the bond that was just severed. You have to understand, Leo. My name is Elena Warren. I am 36 years old. And I am the founder and CEO of the Celestia Hotel Group and Aura Bespoke Events. My properties are 5-star sanctuaries, architectural marvels in a dozen cities. My events company curates experiences for a clientele that doesn't ask the price. I built this. All of it. From the mud. But long before any of that, I was just Lena. And my brother, Leo, was my protector. Leo is 3 years older than me. We were the quiet, forgotten casualties of a spectacular divorce. Raised in a cramped, 2-bedroom Seattle apartment that always smelled like damp carpet and regret. Our parents' war was fought not with custody battles. Neither seemed particularly desperate to have us, but with slammed doors, late night screaming matches about money, and missed child support payments that left our mother weeping at the kitchen table. We learned, very young, that adults were unreliable. We learned to rely only on each other. I remember him at 15, already tall for his age, working a grueling job at a local hardware store, stocking shelves and cutting timber. I'd watch him come home, his hands raw and splintered, and quietly slip most of his paycheck under our mom's door before she woke up. One night, I found him at the kitchen table, under the flickering fluorescent light, trying to superglue the sole of his only pair of work boots back together. He looked up, saw me, and just smiled, his face exhausted. "It's just us, Lena," he would tell me, finding me asleep on my textbooks later that night. "You and me against the world. I'll always have your back." That promise was our religion. It carried us through everything. When I got a full scholarship for hospitality management, my ticket out, he worked overtime as an apprentice architect, nights and weekends, to send me money for books and a decent coat. "You can't look broke," he'd insisted, stuffing $200 bills into my pocket. You've got to look like you belong. When I took the single biggest gamble of my life 5 years later, he was the only one who didn't call me insane. I used every cent I had saved in a terrifying, high-interest small business loan to buy a dilapidated, foreclosed historic building in a part of downtown that was still years away from revitalization. The bank saw a condemned ruin, a liability. I saw the bones of the first Celestia Grand. Leo, by then a brilliant architect, just starting at a small firm, saw it too. He spent 6 months drawing up the new blueprints for free, battling city permits, and arguing with engineers who said my vision was structurally impossible. He'd show up after his own 10-hour day, covered in sawdust, and rewire a fuse box himself because I couldn't afford a licensed electrician. On weekends, he'd bring his friends, and they'd help with demolition, paid only in beer and pizza. Consider it an investment in us, he'd said, grinning, his face covered in plaster dust, as we knocked down a wall together. That building became the flagship. My brand grew. By the time I was 32, I had 6 hotels and had just launched Aura Bespoke Events. And through every gut-wrenching setback and every dizzying triumph, Leo was my first call. He was my rock. Then, Seraphina Vance entered the picture. Leo met her at a high-profile charity fundraiser. My company was catering. She was undeniably beautiful, polished to a high sheen, and descended from an old-money shipping dynasty. Her family name was etched onto museum wings and university libraries. My first interaction with her set the tone for everything that followed. I was on site, a habit I never broke, adjusting a floral arrangement near the bar when I heard her speak to my lead bartender, a man who had been with me for 10 years. "Can I get some actual champagne out here?" she'd said, not looking at him, her voice dripping with a bored, un dismissive air. She tapped a long, manicured nail on the bar top. "Not this sparkling cider you're serving." My bartender, a consumate profesional, simply replied, "Ma'am, that is the 08 Dom Perignon." She'd waved a hand. "Whatever. Just find something better." I felt a crawl of discomfort, a protective anger for my staff. She wasn't just rude. She seemed to enjoy the power of belittling someone she deemed beneath her. It was a coldness I recognized. Leo, however, was instantly, completely mesmerized. He saw the polished surface. I saw the rot underneath. Within a month, the brother I knew began to vanish. He traded his practical, reliable Subaru for a sleek, silver Maserati that I knew. From his own complaints about his firm's partners, he couldn't comfortably afford. Our weekly sibling dinners, once sacred, became monthly check-ins, then rare, strained phone calls. He started using phrases that grated on me, words like social capital and the right kind of people. He criticized my wardrobe. "Don't you think you should wear more? Feminine brands. Lena Seraphina knows a personal shopper." When we did manage to meet, Seraphina often joined, a silent, judgmental presence. She would scroll through her phone at the dinner table, sighing loudly with impatience whenever Leo and I reminisced about our childhood or shared an inside joke. The message was clear. Our past, the very thing that forged us, was an embarrassment to her. Her mother, Isabella, was somehow worse. She was a razor blade disguised as a society matron. At a dinner meant to celebrate Leo's promotion at an impossibly expensive restaurant he insisted on paying for, Isabella turned to me, her smile thin, her diamonds heavy. "So, Elena, Leo tells me you run a little event business. How industrious. I own the Celestia Hotel Group as well." I'd replied politely, the filet mignon tasting like ash in my mouth. "Aura Events is our luxury catering division." "Oh, Yes. She'd mused. Svörling Hevein. It must be simply exhausting. Dealing with all that. Service. The complaints. The demanding guests. The staff. She said the word staff like it was a disease. I could never. Before I could explain that as CEO, I was managing acquisitions and brand strategy. Leo interrupted, a nervous laugh escaping him. Lena's always been a hard worker, he said. The tone he used shattered my heart. He sounded like he was apologizing for me. He glanced at Seraphina, as if seeking her approval for his lukewarm defense. The sting of that moment, my brother, who had laid drywall with me, now framing my success as a blue-collar burden, stayed with me for weeks. I realized how far he had drifted, how desperate he was to fit into their world of effortless, inherited wealth. The engagement call came late one night. She said yes. Lena, he shouted into the phone, and his genuine, uncomplicated joy was so infectious that I pushed all my reservations down. I would be happy for him. I had to be. Then came the problem, the venue. It's just... Seraphina's mother has a list, he explained a week later, the stress already creeping into his voice. The places she wants are either booked for the next 2 years or... well, they're astronomically expensive. Lena, we're talking $250,000. Just for the room. I smiled. Relieved. Here. I could help. Well, what about the Celestia Grand? The rooftop ballroom was just featured in Vogue. The gardens are perfect for a June ceremony. As my brother, you get preferential booking. And, obviously, a significant discount. There was a long, painful silence on the other end. I don't know. Lena, he finally stammered. Seraphina mentioned. Well, she wants something truly exclusive. The insult was so plain it took my breath away. My flagship, 5-star property, the jewel of my empire, wasn't exclusive enough. He finally convinced them to at least tour the hotel. The day was excruciating. I had my top manager, Alex, lead the presentation, while I stayed back, playing the role of the supportive sister. Isabella and Seraphina walked through the grand ballroom, a room that had hosted senators and royalty whispering to each other. Isabella touched the hand-painted silk wallpaper with 2 fingers, then visibly recoiled, as if it were dirty. The ambiance is dated, she announced. This color palette is so commercial. And these baccarat chandeliers, Seraphina chimed in, pointing to my prized, custom-installed crystal fixtures that had cost $200. 000 apiece. They're all wrong for my vision. It's very... new money. She shuddered. They'll have to be replaced. Alex, ever the professional, just barely managed to keep his jaw from hitting the floor. Ma'am, those are permanent, structural fixtures. They were commissioned for the space. Mother, perhaps we should just book the 4 seasons, Seraphina sighed, tapping her acrylic nails on her phone. This is becoming a project. It's trying too hard. I watched Leo's face. He was pale, sweating slightly, and looked utterly humiliated. He was drowning, caught between the financial reality I knew he was in and the expectations of the woman he wanted to marry. It shot me a look. A desperate. Pleading expression I hadn't seen since we were children, the same look he used when he needed me to cover for him with our mom. My resolve crumbled. Keeping the peace was a role I knew too well. I stepped forward, forcing a smile so bright it felt brittle. Of course, the chandeliers are classic, but we can do anything with strategic lighting and custom draping. I said, my voice betraying none of my anger. Let's find a creative solution. That concession was my mistake. It opened the floodgates. Their vision was a royal wedding on a dictator's budget. They demanded a floor-to-ceiling, 20-foot wall of imported orchids, a custom-built champagne fountain, a 12-course tasting menu. Alex discreetly provided a preliminary estimate, even with my family discount, which was essentially just charging them at cost. The total was staggering. I saw Leo's hand tremble as he fumbled the paper. He looked like he was going to be sick. In that moment, watching my brother, my protector, look so small and crushed by the weight of these two women, I made the decision that would unravel our entire lives. My internal voice was screaming, "Don't do it. Elena, don't reward this. This is a mistake." But the part of me that still saw the 15-year-old boy gluing his boots together won out. "As my wedding gift to you both," I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears, "I would like to cover the entire venue and catering deposit. 75美元. Ling ling ling. To help you secure your special day." That was the entire Q4 marketing budget for Aura events. It was real. Significant capital. Leo's eyes widened in relief and shame. "Lena. No. We can't accept that." "We accept," Seraphina said instantly, cutting him off. She smiled at me. The first genuine smile I'd ever received from her. Her eyes met her mother's, a flicker of triumph passing between them. How incredibly. "Sufficient. Thank you. Elena. That $75,000 wasn't just money. It was months of my company's net profit. It was a gesture of unconditional love for the brother I adored. And, as I would soon find out, it was the price of my own humiliation. The moment my $75,000 was wired and confirmed, I ceased to exist as a sister. I was recategorized as the bank. Or perhaps more accurately, the venue, the planning process, which I had naively assumed I'd be part of, given my financial stake and professional expertise, became a fortress I couldn't penetrate. My own company, Aura Bespoke Events, was coordinating the wedding, but I was treated like an outsider. Alex, my hotel manager and a man I trusted implicitly, became the stressed intermediary. He would forward me emails from Seraphina's personal wedding planner, Harrison, with notes like, "For your information, they've requested to remove the Rodin sculpture from the lobby. I've told them it's bolted to the floor. They are insistent. The sculpture was an original, a cornerstone of the hotel's identity. Tell them it's impossible." Alex. I'd write back, my fingers tight on the keyboard. Suggest a floral screen. The response would come back from Harrison Mislon. "Vance feels a screen is tacky. She insists the statue must be moved. Or she will have to reevaluate the entire lobby aesthetic." I was not invited to the menu tasting, an event held in my own hotel's Michelin-starred kitchen. This was a professional as well as a personal slight. When I asked Alex how it went, he looked physically pained. He lowered his voice, even though we were in my private office. "Elena, it was brutal. Miss Vance." Seraphina. She sent back the consommé 4 times. She told Chef Antoine his technique was provincial. He's French. Elena. He trained under Bocuse. She then asked if we could just serve tiny hamburgers because no one eats this slop anyway. Chef almost walked out. I tried to corner Leo that weekend, finding him at the absurdly expensive tailor Seraphina now insisted he use. Why wasn't I at the tasting? "Leo, it's my kitchen." Chef Antoine was insulted. "Oh," he'd said. not looking up from his phone, where he was scrolling through pictures of custom cufflinks. That was just a preliminary thing. Seraphina and Isabella have a very specific palate. You know how you get? Lena. You're a professional. He said the word professional like it was an accusation. They just wanted to be able to speak freely without, offending you. Offending me, Leo. I'm the one paying for it. Exactly. It's a gift. He'd snapped. A strange defensiveness in his tone. You don't get to control how a gift is used. Just let them handle it. It's their day. His eyes were hard. Un familiar. This wasn't the brother who'd helped me hang drywall. This was a stranger. The invitations went out, embossed on cardstock so thick it felt like marble. Sealed with a custom wax crest of the Vance family crest, intertwined with a newly invented Warren monogram I'd never seen. I knew because my cousin called me. Lena, this invitation is insane. She'd gushed. It's like a work of art. And the calligrapher, my God. I can't wait. What are you wearing? A cold dread. Sharp and acidic. Pooled in my stomach. I haven't even thought about it yet. Dana, I'm just so busy. I waited. 1 week. 2 weeks. My penthouse was on the top floor of the hotel. The mail was delivered by my own executive concierge. There was nothing. The RSVP deadline passed. No invitation arrived. I called Leo. It went to voicemail. I texted him, "Hey. Just checking if my invitation got lost in the mail." Dana said hers arrived. His reply, 3 hours later, was dismissive. Don't be dramatic. Lena, you're at the hotel. You don't need a piece of paper. Seraphina has you down. But I wasn't down. The bridal shower. A lavish, over-the-top affair at the city's most exclusive country club. Came and went. I saw the photos on Instagram. Seraphina. Draped in white. Surrounded by 24 women. All laughing over pastel cocktails and mountains of gifts. I recognized half the women. They were clients. City council members. People I networked with. I wasn't just uninvited. I was actively, publicly excluded. When I asked Leo about it, he'd had the audacity to lie. His gaze shifting around my office. It was just a small thing for her mother's friends. He'd mumbled, "You would have been bored." Bored, Leo. Photos are all over the Sentinel Society page. You're lying to my face. God. Lena. Why are you making this so difficult? He exploded. It was her party. She gets to invite who she wants. Why do you always have to make everything about you? Just be happy for me. The situation finally detonated at a family harmony dinner. Scheduled 1 month before the wedding. It was held at Isabella's request. At a restaurant so pretentious the menu didn't have prices. It was me. Leo. Seraphina. Isabella. And their father. Marcus Vance, a cold, imposing man who ran the shipping empire and looked at everyone, including his own family, like they were disappointing line items on a balance sheet. The tension was suffocating. I tried to make polite conversation, asking Seraphina about her dress. She'd smiled. A thin, reptilian gesture. It's a custom Vera Wang. You probably wouldn't recognize the line. It's not commercial. Halfway through the main course, Isabella placed her fork down with a delicate click. Elena. Dear, she began, her voice syrupy. We need to discuss your role on the wedding day. My role, I laughed. A nervous, confused sound. I assumed it was sister of the groom. Yes. Well, that's the complication, Isabella said, dabbing her lips with a linen napkin. Seraphina and I are concerned that Given your position, guests might be confused. I stared at her. Confused about what? Confused about whether you are a guest or one of the staff. Seraphina chimed in, her voice laced with mock concern. I mean, you own the place. People will naturally assume you're working. It would be awkward. For you. And for us. We wouldn't want guests trying to hand you their empty glasses. I felt the blood rush to my head. A hot, prickling wave of humiliation. I looked at Leo, my eyes stinging, begging him to say something, to defend me, to end this. He just stared at his plate. He picked up his wine glass, studied the ruby liquid, took a long, slow drink, and said nothing. That silence was the sound of my brother dying. It was the sound of our shared history, our bond, our us against the world promise, being executed right there on the table between the bread basket and the overpriced fish. So, I said, my voice dangerously calm, my hands shaking under the table. What are you suggesting? We just think it would be best if you, perhaps, stayed behind the scenes. Isabella offered, her smile never wavering, managed your staff, ensured everything runs smoothly. We would, of course, to be grateful for your professional oversight. A wedding of this caliber requires a very hands-on approach from the vendors. They weren't just uninviting me, they were demoting me, to my own staff, in my own hotel, after I had given them $75. Ling ling ling. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. Excuse me, I whispered, the words choking me. I walked to the restroom on legs that felt like they were made of glass. I locked myself in a stall and dry heaved, my entire body shaking with a profound, seismic mixture of grief and rage. Leo didn't defend me. He let them do it. He watched them skin me alive and didn't even flinch. I left the restaurant without saying another word. Leo didn't call. The final piece of evidence arrived 2 days later. It was the linchpin, the item that transformed this from a family tragedy into a calculated crime. Alex, my hotel manager, had been dealing with Harrison, the imperious wedding planner. Alex was loyal to me, and he was furious about how I was being treated. That afternoon, he forwarded me an email with a simple note. Elena, you need to see this. I think he forwarded this by mistake. I don't know what to say. Check the bottom of the chain. It was a chain, sent from Harrison to Alex, confirming a final walkthrough time. But Harrison, in his haste, had failed to delete the original chain of messages he was forwarding. The chain below his message, a chain between Harrison, Seraphina, and Isabella, from 3 weeks prior. My heart hammered as I read. From Isabella Vance to Seraphina Vance. Harrison subject, the sister problem. Harrison. Seraphina and I are in agreement. Her presence at the head table is non-negotiable. It's visually tacky and undermines the family's standing. That hotel is her entire personality. I will not have my daughter's wedding photos tainted by the help, even if she is his sister. From Seraphina Vance to Isabella Vance. Harrison. Mother is right. Why is this even a discussion? We can't have her. I don't want to spend my wedding day watching her bark orders at her waiters. Just tell Leo we ran out of space. He's weak. He'll get over it. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. From Harrison to Seraphina Vance. Isabella Vance. Ms. Vance. I understand your concern. However, there is the matter of the $75. 000 deposit. She is the owner, and she did provide the funds. If we simply uninvite her, she could become difficult. She could theoretically pull the venue, though it would be a legal nightmare for her and disastrous for her brand's reputation to breach a contract like this. It's a risk. From Seraphina Vance to Harrison. Isabella Vance. Oh. For God's sake. Don't be so dramatic. We're not uninviting her. We're revising the guest list. The deposit is a gift. Gifts are non-refundable. Just tell her there was a last-minute seating catastrophe. Blame the fire marshal. What is she going to do? Sue us. My father's lawyers would eat her alive. She's just a hotel manager. She'll be angry for a week, and then she'll get over it. We have the money. We have the venue. We are in control. From Harrison to Seraphina Vance. Isabella Vance. Understood. As a final solution, may I suggest the following? I will call Ms. Nudier Warren personally 1 week before the event. I will inform her that, due to logistical constraints and family seating revisions, her invitation has been rescinded. I will be firm that the deposit is non-refundable, as per the contract she signed on her brother's behalf. This gives her no time to react and locks in the funds. I will handle Mr. Plows. Warren. From Isabella Vance to Harrison. Seraphina Vance. Perfect. Proceed as planned. And Harrison. Make sure you CC Leo on the final confirmation so he knows it's handled. He's too sentimental. He needs to understand this is how things are done. I read the chain 3 times. The room spun. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't social awkwardness or elitist snobbery. This was a premeditated, calculated conspiracy to defraud me. They had discussed it. They had planned the exact timing. They had strategized how to mitigate the risk, how to control my brother, and, most importantly, how to keep my money while throwing me out of my own building. She's just a hotel manager. The grief that had crippled me in the restaurant evaporated. It was replaced by something cold, sharp, and absolutely clear. A glacial rage. I wasn't dealing with a difficult sister-in-law. I was dealing with a criminal. And I knew exactly what to do. I sat there for a full 10 minutes, staring at the email, the call from Harrison. The one he had suggested in the email hadn't even happened yet. They were so arrogant. They hadn't even executed their little plan. I picked up my phone. I didn't call Leo. I didn't call Seraphina. I called my general counsel. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, exactly 1 week before the wedding. It was almost comical in its predictability, precisely following the timeline laid out in Seraphina's email. I was in my office, staring at the printed-out email chain on my desk. When my private line rang, I knew who it was. I let it ring 3 times, took a deep breath, and picked up. Elena Warren. Hello. Is this Ms. Warren? The voice was crisp, professional, and utterly devoid of warmth. Harrison. This is she, I said, my voice betraying nothing. This is Harrison, the senior coordinator for the Warren Vance ceremony. He sounded like he was reading from a script. In a way, he was. I am calling on behalf of the family. Due to some unfortunate last-minute logistical constraints and revisions to the family seating, we regret to inform you that your invitation to the event has been rescinded. Even though I was holding the email that proved this was a lie, hearing the words spoken aloud sent a jolt of ice water through my veins. It was the blunt, impersonal cruelty of it. A wave of nausea, sharp and sudden, rose in my throat. The old instinct, the one forged in a childhood of being the quiet, overlooked one, kicked in. What did I do wrong? It was a stupid, reflexive thought. A ghost of the person I used to be. I don't understand. I stammered, and the hesitation in my voice was humiliatingly real. It was the last gasp of the sister I had been. Is Leo okay? Is something wrong with my brother? Was there an accident? It was a desperate, foolish hope that this was all some bizarre, tragic mistake. Harrison's voice was like ice. There is nothing wrong with Mr. Warren. As I said, the family has finalized the arrangements. Your attendance is no longer required. He cleared his throat. A dry, papery sound. They do. However, wish to keep the $75,000 deposit you provided as a gift, as per the non-refundable clause in the contract. Thank you for your understanding. There it was. The clinical, brutal confirmation. The sickness vanished, replaced instantly by the same glacial rage I'd felt reading the email. Mr. Harrison, I said, my voice low and shaking, not with fear, but with a sudden, vibrating clarity. I am the owner of the venue and the person who paid that deposit. I am canceling this event, effective immediately. There was a half-second of silence. Then, a sound I will never forget, a short, surprised, contemptuous laugh. Ms. Warren, he said, his tone shifting from board administrator to condescending adult. You are not the client on this contract. Mr. Warren and Ms. Sonno Vance are. I cannot, and will not, take instructions from a third-party vendor. Good day. Click. He hung up on me. I stared at the receiver. He called me a third-party vendor. He laughed. That was his mistake. That was their mistake. They had all, in their arrogance, underestimated the hotel manager. I didn't call back. I hit the intercom. David. Are you ready? My general counsel, David Chen, walked in, holding a slim, gray folder. He had been on standby all morning. Ready when you are. Elena. He just called. He said I'm not the client. I said, my voice flat. David nodded. Unfazed. He was a small, precise man who had famously once countersued a rival hotel chain into bankruptcy. He's technically correct. He can't take instructions from you. But we are not taking instructions. We are enforcing the contract. He tapped the folder. The contract they signed with us. The one he so helpfully referenced. Activate it. I said. Activating. David said. He pressed a button on his own phone. Speed dialing his office. Send the breach of contract notices. Email. Courier. And process server. To Mr. Leo Warren. Ms. Seraphina Vance. Mr. Marcus Vance. Ms. Isabella Vance. And Mr. Mason. Harrison. Send them now. He hung up and looked at me. What's the clause? Clause 12b. I recited from memory. The Celestia Hotel Group reserves the right to terminate any and all services and retain all deposits. In the event of actions by the client or client's party that constitute fraud, bad faith, or willful misconduct that poses a reputational risk to the brand. And the evidence, the email chain, I said, tapping the printout on my desk, in which they conspire to commit wire fraud by excluding a principal party while illegally retaining her funds. I'd say that qualifies as fraud, bad faith, and willful misconduct. The notifications are sent, David said, checking his watch. They state that all services are canceled. The $75 nil deposit is forfeit, and all wedding-related personnel must vacate the premises within 30 minutes. Security is on standby. It took less than 5 minutes. My phone, which I had set to Do Not Disturb, it began to vibrate so hard on my desk, it looked like it was having a seizure. A cascade of notifications lit up the dark screen. Missed call Leo, missed call Leo, missed call Harrison. The panic in that one must have been exquisite. Voicemail Leo. The preview text was frantic Lena. What the hell is this? Call me. My keycard stopped working. Text Seraphina. A string of insults I won't repeat. Ending with you're sued. You jealous little bitch. Missed call Isabella Vance. Missed call Leo. The intercom buzzed. It was my executive assistant. Maria. Her voice was trembling. Ms. Warren. Mr. Warren. Ms. Vance. And 2 other individuals are in the lobby. They are causing a significant disturbance. Security is with them. They are demanding to see you. Let them up. Maria. I said calmly. Send them to the main boardroom. Not my office. This is a business matter now. And David. I said, turning to my counsel. Please join me. The boardroom doors burst open so hard they slammed against the wall. It was Leo. His face blotchy and red with a fury and panic I'd never seen. Beside him was Seraphina. Her face a mask of disbelief. Behind them, Isabella, who looked like she might actually faint from rage. And last, Marcus Vance. The father. He was the one I was worried about. He radiated a heavy, dangerous power and was already on his phone. No doubt speaking to his own lawyer. What the hell did you do? Leo roared, slamming his hands on the polished mahogany table. I enforced my contract. I said, my voice quiet. I remained standing at the head of the table. David stood beside me, silent, holding his gray folder. You canceled my wedding, Leo screamed. A week out. What is wrong with you? Are you insane? You canceled my invitation. I replied, my voice as cold as his. And you tried to steal $75. 000 from me. What is wrong with you? That money was a gift, Seraphina shrieked, her voice cracking. All her polished elegance gone. You can't take back a gift. That's illegal, Daddy. Tell her. You're right, David said, speaking for the first time. His voice was mild, professorial, which only made it more menacing. You can't take back a gift. But this wasn't a gift. It was a deposit on a contract. A contract you, Ms. Vance, and you, Mr. Warren, signed. A contract you then conspired to breach. Marcus Vance snapped his phone shut and stepped forward, silencing his daughter with a single fixed of her. Furious look. Mr. Harrison just forwarded me your notice. This is absurd. Fraud and bad faith. That's a serious accusation. You'll never make it stick. You've just breached this contract yourself. Ms. Warren. And I will personally see to it that your brand is buried under so much litigation you'll be selling this hotel for parts by Christmas. This was the moment. The threat. I felt a flicker of that old fear. He could do it. He had the money. He had the power. Then I remembered the email. She's just a hotel manager. You're welcome to try. Mr. Vance, I said. I slid the gray folder across the table. It stopped directly in front of him. You might want to read this first. Marcus looked at me. His eyes narrowed. Then, at the folder, he opened it. Inside was a single document, the printed email chain. I watched him read. He was a man who controlled everything. And this was information he did not control. His eyes scanned the page. I saw the muscle in his jaw clench. He read it a second time. He slowly lifted his head. His face was pale, but his eyes were burning. The fury I expected was there, but it was not directed at me. He turned, very slowly, to his daughter. "You," he said, his voice a low, terrifying growl. "You put this juvenile, idiotic." In an email, Seraphina faltered. "Daddy. She was being difficult. You conspired to commit wire fraud," Marcus snarled. "And you wrote it down. Are you an idiot? Did I raise an idiot?" Seraphina's mask of superiority shattered. For the first time, I saw her for what she was, a spoiled, terrified child. Her eyes filled with tears. I just didn't want her there. She ruins everything. "Inna," Marcus roared. The room shook. Even Leo, who had been breathing fire, shrank back. Marcus turned back to me. He was all business. "This is a disaster. What you have here," he tapped the email, "is leverage. You know it. I know it. So, this stops. Now, what is your price?" "Ms. Warren, what do you want?" I looked past him. At Leo. My brother was staring at the floor, his face ashen. He looked utterly broken. He hadn't just been a bystander. The email confirmed he'd be handled. He was a participant. "What I want," I said, my voice thick, "is my brother back. But I don't think he exists anymore." I took a deep breath, forcing the emotion down. This was business. "Here is what is going to happen," I said, my voice now crisp. "Professional. The wedding is not cancelled. Not yet. I will allow it to proceed under 3 conditions." They all stared, stunned. "First," I said, "I will receive an immediate, formal, written apology from both of you." I pointed at Seraphina and Leo. "Second," I looked at Seraphina, "I will be seated at the head table, next to my brother, and you will personally apologize to me, in public, at the rehearsal dinner tonight." Third, I looked at Isabella, who seemed to have aged 10 years. "The $75,000 will be publicly acknowledged in the wedding program, not as a general contribution, but exactly as this venue and catering provided by the generous gift of the groom's sister, Elena Warren." Seraphina let out a choked sob. "This is extortion. This is blackmail." "No," I said, my voice like steel. "This is the new contract. You have until 5 p.m. to agree. If you don't, the cancellation stands. I keep the deposit, and I will forward that email chain not only to my litigation team, but to the Sentinel Society columnist. I wonder what the right people will think of that." Marcus Vance glared at his daughter, then at Leo. "You will do it," he ground out. "You will do exactly as she says." He turned back to me, his face carved from granite. "We have a deal. Ms. Warren, you have my word." "I don't want your word, Mr. Vance," I said. "I want it in writing. David will draft the addendum. You have 1 hour to sign it." I turned and walked to the door. David, right behind me. I left the wreckage of my family stewing in the consequences of their own greed. As the door clicked shut, I heard the first ragged sob from my brother. "Lena, please. Wait." I didn't stop. I kept walking. The addendum was signed within the hour. The $75. Ling ling ling, which had been in a holding account, was formally released to my company's main operations fund. The wedding was officially back on, but it was no longer a celebration. It was a hostage situation. The rehearsal dinner that night, held in the Celestia's private vineyard-themed dining room, was one of the most excruciating evenings of my life. The air was thick with a toxic, unspoken tension. I was seated at the head table, as per the agreement, directly between a stone-faced Leo and a vibratingly furious Seraphina. She was wearing a white, off-the-shoulder dress and a fixed, manic smile that didn't reach her eyes, which were red-rimmed from crying or rage, or both. Halfway through the dinner, as per the addendum, Marcus Vance tapped his glass with a knife. The room quieted. "My daughter," he said. His voice clipped. "Has a few words she'd like to share." Seraphina stood up, her knuckles white as she gripped her champagne flute. She looked at her father, who gave her a short, sharp nod. She turned to me. Her entire body was trembling. "Elena," she said, her voice a high, tight wire. I want to apologize." The word sounded like it was being ripped from her throat. There was a miscommunication about the guest list, and my mother and we handled it poorly. It was inappropriate. I am deeply sorry for the distress we caused." She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw no remorse. I saw only pure, unadulterated hatred. "We are so thrilled that you are here to celebrate with us." She sat down to a spattering of confused cloth. Polite applause. It was a pathetic, lavered, humiliating performance, and it was exactly what I had demanded. Later, as guests mingled with dessert, Marcus Vance approached me by the terrace doors. He held a glass of scotch. "Ms. Warren," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Mr. Vance," I replied coolly. He took a sip, studying me over the rim. "In my business, I deal with pirates, union bosses, and corrupt port authorities. They are all, to a man, predictable. My daughter, she is not. But you." He swirled the amber liquid. "You are impressive. You don't flinch. You had me, and you knew it. You leveraged your position perfectly." "I was protecting my business, and my dignity," I said. "Dignity," he mused. "That's what my wife and daughter call social standing. They're not the same thing. You have character. Ms. Warren, my son-in-law to be." "I'm not so sure." He gave me a curt nod. "I respect your spine. Don't let them break it." It was the most bizarre, and perhaps the most genuine, compliment I had ever received. I stepped out onto the terrace for a breath of air, the city lights spreading out below me like a carpet of diamonds. The cool night air was a relief. The door opened behind me. It was Leo. He looked terrible. His suit was rumpled. His face was gray, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He stood next to me, gripping the railing. "You must hate me," he whispered. I didn't answer. I just looked at the skyline. I didn't know about the email. "Lena," he said, his voice cracking. "I swear, I knew they didn't. Like you, I knew they were snobs, but I didn't know they planned that to take your money, to fire you from my wedding. But you sat there at dinner," I said, my voice flat. "And you let them call me the staff. You let them demote me. The email didn't matter. Leo, your silence was everything." "I know," he choked out. and the sound was a terrible, wet sob. I know. I'm trapped. Lena, I'm so trapped. Trapped by what their social standing. By debt, he suddenly yelled. His voice raw. By this, he gestured at his expensive suit. At the opulent party inside. The car. The ring. The down payment on the condo. It's all their money. Marcus. He gave me a loan when we got engaged. A wedding present. But it's not. It's a noose. I'm in debt to him for $500,000. Lena, I've been living a life I can't afford. And I kept digging. He slumped against the railing, his face in his hands. I hate who I've become. I hate her. That I wasn't expecting. What? I saw her. He whispered. 2 weeks ago. I came back to the condo early. She was on the phone. A housekeeper. A young girl. New. Had apparently broken one of her vases. A priceless one. The way she was talking to this girl. Lena. She was calling her. She called her filthy. Stupid. Human garbage. She told her she'd have her deported. The girl was sobbing. Begging. And Seraphina. She was enjoying it. She was smiling. He looked at me. His eyes wide with a self-loathing that was terrifying to see. And I didn't do anything. I backed out the door. I hid. Because I was afraid of her. Afraid of what she'd do. Afraid she'd tell her father. We stood in silence. The party's muffled sounds a world away. You have a choice. Leo. I said. My voice softer now. The anger was gone. Replaced by a profound, aching pity. You can walk in there. Marry that woman. And be their polished, obedient, castrated pet for the rest of your life. Or you can be a man and face the consequences. The consequences. He breathed, looking at his hands. The debt, the lawsuit, the humiliation. It's expensive to cancel a wedding. Leo, I said, turning to face him. I can't shield you from all of it. Marcus will come for you. But I promise you. A divorce from that woman in 5 years. After she has truly sunk her claws into you. That will cost you your soul. And that you can never get back. I left him on the terrace. The next day, the wedding day, the Celestia Grand Ballroom was transformed. Seraphina and Isabella's vision had been perfectly executed. It was a floral wonderland. The 20-foot wall of orchids was there. The champagne fountain gurgled. A string quartet played softly. It was undeniably beautiful. And completely, utterly cold. I sat in the front row, as per the addendum, wearing a steel gray dress. I was a monument to our forced treaty. Isabella, in the row opposite, refused to look at me. Marcus looked. Thoughtful. The music changed. The procession began. Leo walked to the altar. His face pale, but composed. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. Then, the bridal march swelled. The great doors opened. Seraphina appeared on her father's arm. She was a vision. The custom Vera Wang gown was magnificent. A cloud of lace and silk. She glided down the aisle. Her smile fixed. Her eyes locked on the society photographers at the front. They met at the altar. The minister, an elderly man with a kind voice, began, "We are gathered here today." It proceeded. The vows were exchanged. To have and to hold. Leo's voice was a monotone. Seraphina's was clear and triumphant. The minister smiled. And now, if anyone here can show, just 'cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now, or forever hold their peace. A traditional, empty silence followed. In that silence, Leo's eyes found mine. I held his gaze. I didn't nod. I didn't smile. I just saw him. I saw the 15-year-old boy with the glue on his boots. I saw the brother who carried me on his back when I broke my ankle. I saw the man who helped me hang drywall, his face covered in plaster. I see you. Leo. Who are you? Something in his face shifted. It broke. The mask of the terrified, indebted fiancé shattered. And for the first time in a year, I saw my brother. A flicker of decision. A return. I do, he said. The minister blinked. I'm sorry. Son, we haven't gotten to that part. I have something to say, Leo announced. His voice was no longer a monotone. It was loud. It was clear. It echoed in the vast, silent ballroom. Seraphina, who had been turned toward the minister, froze. She slowly turned to Leo, her smile faltering. Leo, what are you doing? She hissed. I can't, he said, turning to face her. I can't do this. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Isabella made a small, strangled sound. This is not true. Leo continued, his voice gaining strength. He wasn't talking to her anymore. He was talking to the 300 guests. This whole thing is a lie. I've been lying. I've been trying to become someone I'm not. Someone I despise. To fit into a world that doesn't want me and that I don't want. Leo. Stop it. Seraphina's voice was a venomous whisper. You're embarrassing me. Embarrassing you. He laughed. Araf. Broken sound. You know what's embarrassing? That in the process of becoming this thing, I nearly lost the only person in my entire life who has ever truly had my back. The person who built this. All of this. He gestured around the room. With her bare hands. My sister. He looked back at me. My sister. Who I let you. And your mother. Humiliate and discard and steal from. Because I was a coward. This wedding, he announced, his voice ringing with finality, is cancelled. I am so deeply sorry to all of you who traveled here. But I cannot marry this woman. Shaus. Seraphina let out a shriek that was not human. It was pure. Primal rage. You did this, she screamed. Pointing at me. She lunged. Not at Leo, but at me, Marcus and her father, who was standing beside her. Grabbed her arms. Isabella simply collapsed, fainting backward into the front row. Leo didn't look at them. He didn't look at the chaos. He didn't look at the photographers, who were flashing pictures at a manic pace. He walked off the altar, straight to the front row. He ignored my outstretched hand. Instead, he pulled me to my feet and hugged me, his arms like steel bands, burying his face in my shoulder. I'm sorry. Lena, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, I whispered, holding him. I've got you. It's over. He took my hand, and together, my brother and I turned our backs on the wreckage. We walked out of the grand ballroom, past the gawking guests, past the wall of orchids and the useless champagne fountain, and we didn't look back. The aftermath was messy. Marcus Vance, true to his word, was a formidable enemy. He sued Leo for the loan and for the full cost of the wedding, but he also sued his own daughter and wife. The email, which I had regrettably leaked to the Sentinel via an anonymous source, had caused a social and business scandal that rocked their company's board. Marcus, the pragmatist, cut his losses. He publicly disavowed his wife's and daughter's actions, painting them as rogue agents. Last I heard, Seraphina and Isabella were living in a dignified exile in Switzerland. Cut off from the family fortune, Leo had to declare bankruptcy. He lost the Maserati, the condo, everything, but I'd never seen him happier. He moved into a small apartment, went back to his old, smaller architecture firm, and started designing public parks. He and I resumed our Sunday brunches. It was awkward at first, but we found our way back. As for the $75, ling ling ling, it was legally mine, forfeit by their breach of contract. I used every penny of it to create the Aura Future Fund, a mentorship program for young female entrepreneurs, specifically teaching them how to read contracts, value their work, and never, ever let anyone call them the help. 1 year later, I stood in my own backyard, which I'd finally had time to landscape. It was a simple garden, filled with wildflowers. Leo stood in front of me, wearing a simple linen suit. He was marrying Maya, a kind, brilliant second-grade teacher, with a laugh that made everyone around her smile. There were only 30 guests. I was his best woman. As I held the ring, he looked at me, his eyes clear and full of a joy that was real. "Thank you, Lena," he said, "for what I asked. Smiling. For saving my life. For reminding me who I am. That's what family does." "Leo," I said, handing him the ring. "The real kind." As I watched them say their vows, I realized the lesson in all of it. Self-respect isn't passive. It's an action. It's a line you draw in the sand. It's a no. It's a canceled wedding. It's the courage to burn down a lie, even if it's one you helped build. To get back to the truth. You can't control how people treat you, but you can. And you must control what you accept. Have you ever had to draw that line? Have you ever had to stand up for your own worth? Even when it cost you something? Let me know your story in the comments below. This was one of the hardest lessons of my life. But it brought me back my brother. And it brought me back myself. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more. And share this with anyone who needs a reminder of their own power. Thank you for listening.